Well, hello, my friends, and happy Sunday to you. Look at this cutie. Happy springy. Here's the supplies that I used for this project and the stencils, lots of stencils, so much fun. I just had so much fun creating. So these papers are going to be free to you in the resource library, and I am starting my project on an 11 by 14 MDF board, and I'm putting my papers down with some Deco Art matte medium. And I'm just kind of framing this in. You're just going to see bits and pieces of this, but it's there in the background to show through. And that's what I love about having papers for my background. It's just one more element of interest. So I am starting off with my Mediterranean Duo stencil, and I'm using Deco Art's fluid acrylics, and this is in raw umber. And I'm using fluid acrylics because I want it to be super light, and I didn't want it to be perfect. I wanted it to be messy, and I was going to wipe some of that away with my paper towel and with alcohol. I'd spray some alcohol on there and just wipe it away because I want it to look old and vintage and worn and like an old lattice. And so that was my inspiration, was a picture, an old European picture. And so I did that all over the piece and really kind of pulled it back with some alcohol. Now I'm coming back in with some burnt umber because I wanted it to be warmer. And burnt umber has a yellower, softer feel than the raw umber. And I wanted it to be different and warmer. And so I used Americana glazing medium and my burnt umber in fluid acrylic. And again, I'm picking it back up with my towel. And I love this look because it really mats it down and it picks up some of that texture from the paper towel and pulls up that paint so that it is soft. And that's what I wanted. I wanted it to be really soft. And so I wanted a little bit warmer tone and a little more age to it. So I added some yellow ochre in the fluid acrylic. And again, just picking it up with my towel to give it, again, that feeling, that matted feeling, and that some of that texture from the towel. And so now I'm adding the pizzazz to the background, and this part was just so fun for me. So I started with cobalt teal fluid acrylic and some titanium white. And I laid that down and then picked it back up, and I thought at first I just wanted a tiny bit, and then I thought, no, I'm going for it. I want those really grungy, yummy, rusty drips. And so I used phthalo blue green, which is a color that I don't use very often, but I will. And I added some titanium white to it, and then just let it drip and drip and drip and played and I would tap my paper towel down into it to just kind of pick it up, not a lot, but to kind of soak up that water so that it would dry a little bit faster so that I can continue with more layers. So I dried it and then put my cobalt teal back over the top of it with a little bit of titanium white, and those two together are the happy place. And so I could have probably dripped the whole piece, and maybe I'll do one just like that. But oh man, it just was perfect. It gave it that really kind of oxidized, rusty feel that I wanted, and it was just enough for the corners, and it didn't take away from the focal point, which is the flowers. So I printed this saying out on the computer, and I'm just marking where I want it so I have it centered so I know where to put my flowers. Now I'm coming in now with some tissue paper and some archival ink, and this is my Paris 2 stencil, and it's just got some great phrases and words and different fonts, and I love that. And I'm using my tissue paper again because I wasn't sure where I wanted everything to go, and it's super versatile. I can take things up, I can put them down, and because it's transparent, you can't tell which layers were first. So it's always perfect if you're unsure about what you're wanting. And this is, I used my vintage postage, and then this is the fun font stencil, just creating some words, just to kind of go in the background here and there to give it some interest. This paper that I'm using, again, is free in the resource library, but it's something that I created, and so it's on a vintage piece of paper, and then I just created a great font and wrote out inspiring phrases on it. Like she can do, and I'll talk a little bit more about it at the end of the video, but you can use it as a full page or cut it up like I have, but it'll be free to you in the resource library. All of the supplies will be listed below. There'll be a link below in the YouTube description box because they'll be on the blog, as well as on the blog you'll be able to sign up for the resource library if you haven't already, so that you can get those papers. So I'm just now putting all of my tissue paper images down and my papers down again with my Deco Art matte medium. And I'm keeping in mind, I already know that I'm going to be putting flowers in the corners. So I'm trying to pull those images away from the corners so that they don't get covered up. Now some do, and you'll see that I come back in and add some more towards the end. But that's part of the process too, of seeing what shows and what doesn't show, and where you're maybe missing something, that kind of thing. And that's why I love using tissue paper, because it's just seamless. So now that I've got those images down, I put my main image down. And the reason I didn't put that down first is because I wanted those stenciled images to look like they were coming out from the main focal font. So now I'm switching to Deco Art Premium paints because they're nice and rich and thick. And I wanted, though, that nice thick paint feel for texture, to see the brush strokes, to give me good stencil lines, and the Deco Art Premium paints are great for that. I'm now just adding some leaves kind of here and there, not sure exactly yet where the flowers are going. So I had to add a couple more towards the end, but in general, I'm laying down my darkest color first and then adding the lighter colors as I go up to add interest and variation in the leaves. So now I've got my Flower Gang 4 stencil. And this first stencil that I put down, I'll pull it up and it just disappeared. So I knew I needed to go bigger. Sometimes bigger is always better. And I needed to go brighter. And so I brightened up my paint and made the stencil, and look at that. The larger is perfect. It stands out. It's bright. And so you really need to pay attention when you've got a lot going on in your background, like I do, to really create great contrast in your focal images so that they just don't disappear and get messy, and you lose all the detail. And this is my Silhouette Flower 4 stencil, and I love this stencil because the flower petals are so big. And so I am just making sure to get enough contrast between the background. And I do that a lot of times with the white. And you'll see me kind of use my finger to push that all together so that it blends really well, so that it stands out from the background. And of course I'll make it stand out a little bit more with some shading, with some additional. The white there, the white little flowers that I'm putting on there, really brings your attention right to those flowers. And so I'm making those the focal point, because sometimes when it's so busy you can lose, like I said, the focal point. And so that white really draws your attention to it. So now I'm coming back in with more of my tissue paper because I lost a lot of the images as I started putting everything down. And then I was like, I'm just going to put them all over the place because they just looked so great. And because it's tissue paper, again, they melt right into the background. But the wonderful thing is that you can remove them. So I put a lot down, and then once I kind of step back and look at it, I'm like, oh, that's a little too much. And so I was able to, before it dries, remove some. And so that's why I love using tissue paper. There's just so many uses for tissue paper, and I'm going to have a video on that soon. So I'm just taking some titanium white, and instead of shading this black, I'm shading it white. Why? Because again, I'm really drawing that away from the background, from all of the busyness that's happening on my piece, so that we can definitely see, and because it makes it feel a little bit 3D, it makes it really pop out, and to help simplify. Using my Sharpie paint marker, which is a water-based paint marker, and I love this marker. Now I'm going to add my shading around my flowers, and again, this is drawing them out. This is really making them stand away from the background, the busy, busy background. And I'm going around all of the edges, and I'm going around just a few of the flower petals, because I don't want to add to the busyness. I want to tone it down, and I want to make those flowers pop off the page. And so I do the outer edge outline and then just a few petals. And that is it, my friends. So I hope you enjoyed this project. I'm just shading now with my soft pastel. I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, I hope you subscribe, and that you like it, and you comment if you have any questions. And I talk a little bit about what inspired this piece, and this quote is one of my favorite quotes, and it's so, so important to write your story well, my friends. So stick around for the conversation at the end. I share about a new workshop that's coming, lots of good stuff, and don't forget to get your papers in the resource library. Again, the link below to the supplies and the resource library is down below in the YouTube box. So thank you again, and I will see you next week. Well, hello, loves, and happy Sunday, and happiness right here, and all the colors, and oh my goodness, the background was so much fun. I was inspired by a picture. I just saw kind of a wall that had lattice and then these flowers. It was a European wall, aged and grungy, and then it had this lattice that had flowers and vines and things like that. And I wanted to get really carried away, but I really wanted it to be super simple. I wanted this to show through, and this color here, it is just so luscious and good. I went over everything in the video, but I used the premium acrylics because I wanted to have some really bright, bold colors, and the tissue paper is always just so good because you can't tell which layer came first, and I love that. And I can delete things too. So I had a postage up here, and it was too much, and so I'm able to take it away when I'm using tissue paper, and so that's why I use tissue paper a ton. And I have a new workshop that's coming out we're gonna do a ton of tissue paper work and layers and backgrounds, and we're creating collage abstracts. Oh, so this is just so much fun. With so many different, and I think somewhat new techniques used in my way, in my style of collage, and so I'm super excited to share that with you. So that'll be coming out in May. So, and I think I said in the video that there, a couple of the papers, the background papers, will be in the resource library, and this one here will be free to you as well. And I made this one, and this paper is just like she quotes, like, she has decided to stop letting fear hold her back and chose to live bravely. She will not let anything stop her. All these different things. She will be kind to herself. Oh, so many good quotes in this sheet that you can use the whole sheet, or you can cut them up and use them like I did in your different pieces or whatever. So that'll be free to you in the resource library as well. Okay, so this says, your life is your story. Write well, edit often. One of my favorite quotes. I don't know who said it. I searched for who did, but I couldn't find it. So, but I love this quote because it's pretty cut and dry. This is your life, my love. This is your life, and this is your story. You only have one. And I am the first one to say that my story is not perfect. And it has, it's got a lot of chapters that aren't great. But when I can, I recover from those not so great chapters of my life, and I begin to write a new story again. And that is what I really believe life is all about. Nothing ever goes as planned. And there's another saying that says, and I think Maya Angelou says it, when you know better, you do better. So sometimes all you can do is write the story the best way you can. And then when you get down to another chapter, you look back, and I say don't look back too often, but when you look back, you're like, really? What was I thinking? I have a lot of those. Or maybe you're in a chapter and you're writing your story and you choose to write the wrong story. And believe me, I have done that many, many times. But you know what the great thing is, and I tell this to my kids all the time, you make a choice, and if you don't like the choice, guess what? You get to make a new choice. To correct that choice or move away from that choice, you get to edit your story daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. I am constantly editing my story, constantly trying to grow and learn and be better and discover, and all of those words that we have for our years, we get to edit that too. If nothing is final, nothing is permanent. And if you don't like how your story is going, guess what? You are in charge. You are the only one responsible for rewriting your story. And so, my loves, I just hope today that you're writing a great story. And sometimes it's really great and sometimes it's not. And that's okay, because we get to edit. We get to pull out the eraser, we get to turn the page, we get to do all of those things, and we get to make new choices for our lives. Every day, every moment, every hour. And so, lovies, write your story well and edit it often, often, often. All right, loves, have a wonderful Sunday, and get some rest and write a good story today. And always, always know that you are loved.